Hi, Trmole here. So what's the story behind the story behind the story? Why are we having so much tension about the Jewish people, the aggressions of Islam, the Christian perspective of Antichrist emergence and apocalyptic utterings, end of times discussions that are permeating out there? What's the root cause of all of it? And I think of in the United States media, those who are not really paying attention to global affairs, the big story of the world, and it's the hottest most contested piece of real estate on earth, is the Temple Mount and the Jewish steps to rebuild the third temple. Now, there's a lot of, I would say, Masonic forces, the groups out and all over the world, especially the United States. Hiram Abiff was one of the architects of the original temple for Solomon. So there's quite a lot of interest in the subcircles of society for the rebuilding of the third temple. And the Jewish people, including down to selecting the red heifers that will be sacrificed to initiate the proceedings of rebuilding the temple. They had 5 red heifers, and they've reduced it down to just 2 perfect types to sacrifice at the temple to reconvene it. And Hamas has said openly that one of the reasons that provoked the attack in October 7th attack that was so devastating, one of the reasons they did it was because of the Jewish steps to rebuild the temple. That's not a justification at all, but if you want to know what's the hostilities about, it centers around rebuilding the third temple. And if you go to the temple now, you'll see that there's all kinds of preparations prominently displayed where the Jewish people are ready to rebuild. What's the problem with that? Well, right now, Islam has the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount, and the intended goal is to, that would have to be removed in order to rebuild the temple. The plans are already well laid out, and everybody knows that peace deals in the Middle East are going to pave the way for the rebuilding of the temple. And the reclaiming of the sovereignty of the Temple Mount complex for the Jewish people to rebuild it. That means that Islam has to be removed from the area. And there's been concessions to allow more Jewish people to go up and pray, and Christians more access to the Temple Mount. But it's been a very hostile area, a very contentious piece of real estate for a very long time, and there's no redeeming effort of peace that's going to stop it. So Islam has gone on the offensive because they know that the Jewish people are ready to make a move in that direction, and have been preparing it for a long time, and it's displayed right there for everybody to see in Jerusalem. And more and more, roughly half of the Jewish population in Israel is starting not just a fringe right group, but getting to 50% where people believe that the Jewish people need to reclaim the Temple Mount and rebuild the temple. And the reason for it is Jewish people feel that to be close to God, to fulfill Scripture. This is one of the reasons why the state of Israel was created in the first place. Because in order to fulfill all the requirements and get back to God, give God a holy place to reside on earth, they have to build the temple. And then they have to get back into the sacrificial schedule that they always maintained previously. And Jewish people are one of the oldest groups of people on earth still intact. So you're looking at a view of the world that is very old, more than 3,000 years old, roughly, if you want to be kind of loose about it. but a very ancient culture that still is adhering to wanting to resurrect those customs in order to create a platform for God to return and reside on earth. And they believe that in order to do that, they have to get back to sacrificing animals on the Temple Mount and getting back to the rituals that they had previously before it was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar and destroyed by the Romans. And there was another attempt to rebuild the temple 300 AD or so, but as they had constructed and brought all the elements to be there was some kind of natural catastrophe that spewed volcanic-like apparatuses out of the Temple Mount and destroyed the building materials. So they believe it wasn't time to rebuild the temple, but they think it's now. And this is why you have heightened tensions all over the world now, this anti-Jewish focus from a whole bunch of hostile characters. And then you have, of course, those who support Islamic sovereignty and expression around the world that are coming to a collision with this piece of real estate. And in order to rebuild the temple, the Islam knows that it's going to be removed from the Temple Mount, and I think forward momentum says that that's going to happen. It's going to be very embarrassing to them, so they're going into a holy war condition and going around the world and burning down churches and setting up mosques in Christian territories and trying to stop the inevitable. And that leads to a lot of the aggression that is quite obvious and open now. And the Christians play their role in a couple different ways. In some cases, on the fringe side, they believe Trump is the Antichrist that's ushering in this age of Jewish rebellion that is going to bring about the end of times, and that the peace deals that are being made, the Abraham Accords, are going to unleash this ability to rebuild the temple. And they see it as an apocalyptic measure. So no matter where you're looking, the times are centered around this rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem, and it's having an impact all over the world. And so when you hear all the tensions in the media and in American media, we talk about whether the Jews have a right to do anything, whether Islam is getting dangerously out of control, the resurrection of the Christian point of view. There's discussions about Vivek Ramaswamy and whether or not he should be Hindu that could be governor of the state of Ohio and not have a Christian assumption. You have the Turning Point USA folks, especially on the death of Charlie Kirk, the assassination, that want to have a Christian revitalization, but then that runs up against all these other forces, the Islamic expression to expand and take over the world with a giant caliphate, or in the case of the Jewish people, they're leveraging banking and powerful interests all over in every sector of the economy in order to build the presence to get the power to be able to rebuild the temple. Because if you really get down to the bottom line of why they want so much power and control over world affairs, it's to gain the ability to rebuild the temple. It's always been about that. They failed throughout their history where they've remained somewhat intact, if not hunted down and killed and destroyed for all kinds of ways, but they still have their value system that they've held on to over all these years, and they're looking to make good on that promise, and that's to rebuild the temple. And if you do any kind of media into Jerusalem, you'll see that the momentum of that effort has gained a lot of steam, and that has caused political tensions that are resonating in all kinds of indirect ways all over the world, especially in the United States. Because without the power of the United States and without the influence over the United States and this desire to make the government of the United States work in behalf of supporting Israel, there's no way that they could defend themselves against Hamas and all the aggressive forces that don't want to see the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. So the United States then becomes an instrument of constructing this new temple, because the power of the United States And the capitalism that comes from that economy has supplanted the third world tendencies to hold everybody in this kind of below the line balance of where Islamic fundamentalism keeps everybody under a tightly controlled umbrella. And that world is coming apart in front of their faces, and it's a momentum that they haven't been able to stop. They weren't able to stop it with the Sykes-Picot Treaty after World War I. They certainly lost their land and territory after World War II with this reestablishment of Israel to begin with. And it was all, if you get into the Hiram Abiff's studies of rebuilding the temple or building the temple the first time, and all the Masonic corridors that are out there, this has been planned and talked about for centuries. And it's all come to a head in the here and now. And there's really nothing anybody can do to stop it, because it has a forward momentum that reaches into a spiritual war that has been going on for many thousands of years. And we're playing our parts in it. But if you want to know why the tension is all of a sudden very intense, and why everybody's talking about these different forces and how they collide with each other, they can't coexist. They can't exist as one group. It's all going to come to a point, and that's happening now. And the Islamic presence on the Temple Mount is going to be wiped off. The Dome of the Rock is going to have to be cleaned off, and the new temple dedicated to Yahweh by the Jewish people of Israel is going to now take center stage, and it's going to be very disruptive to Islam all around the world. And they're going to be looking to destroy the Jewish and Christian religions as much as they can in order to preserve their own footprint into history, which is being erased as we speak in ways they can't stop or control. And the power that's going to do it will be the government of the United States. And so they have a lot of anxiety about that, and I would expect a lot more contention from them. But if you want to understand it, all you really need to know is that the third temple being rebuilt is the center of the controversy, and the whole goal is to return Yahweh into a house on earth to reside in, to guard over his people. And that's what in general behind the scenes, what everybody believes is their role in making that happen. So it's going to get pretty rocky, and it's inevitable. It's always been pointed to come to this point, and here we are. So that's the context. The building of the temple for the third time in ways that will bring God's presence to reside on earth, not just to loom over it, but to physically be there through the sacrificial structure of animal sacrifice. That should have animal rights groups and all these leftists who have not encountered or have tried to suppress a 3,000-year-old culture and having it all of a sudden resurrected in front of their faces. It's going to wreck a lot of assumptions, and it's going to be interesting to watch for sure. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.